What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. This video is all the reasons why I left social media almost 3 years ago. At the age of 22, I am currently 25. I don't like to really draw out the beginnings of my videos, so that's all you need to know. If you've considered deleting your social media or just wondered what life was like without it, this video is for you. So with that, let's get started. The first reason I left social media is going to be the obvious one. I was wasting so much time on these platforms. I was always more of a consumer versus a producer on these platforms, so I would rarely post my own content, even not as a content creator, just about my life or big events. I was just not a big poster. So really all the time I was spending on these platforms was consuming content from other people and seeing other people's lives, which was fine, but I was just using so much of my time to watch other people's lives, and it was starting to get to a point that really bothered me. Looking at my phone time, my screen time was completely atrocious. I was embarrassed by how much time I was spending on those platforms. Even if no one else saw it, for my own sake, I was embarrassed about the amount of life I was wasting on these platforms. At the time, TikTok wasn't even really a big thing, or I was just behind the times. I actually don't think it was even invented 3 years ago, but don't quote me on that. I'm not the social media guru. But I had Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Those three I had for quite some time before deleting. I only had a Twitter account for like 3 days. I never used it. So I never had to worry about that one, but the other ones I deleted. The second reason I deleted my social media is a little bit different, and it was a little more personal, especially for women. I think women might be able to relate to this a bit more, but I felt like social media was becoming a bit of a slippery slope. I was early in my 20s, just about to graduate college. There were so many trends on the rise, and it was easy to see where social media was headed. Again, OnlyFans was not a thing at the time, but you could tell that content was just getting more and more risque, and it was really a race to the bottom of who could get the most attention. And the way we were getting attention, especially as women, were pictures that ultimately I didn't want to be a part of. I really was not, again, not much of a producer, but I felt that being in that environment was making that temptation to chase after the attention too prevalent. I felt that the temptation was being thrown in my face all the time from these other women getting attention for plastering their ass on their Instagram, or, you know, taking provocative pictures even when they were in relationships, which completely confuses me to this day. That's a whole nother video. But I was on these platforms, and obviously I like attention. I like attention as much as everybody else. I think we all appreciate that. And I was seeing all these other women get attention for these pictures, and it wasn't something I wanted to be a part of, but quite frankly, I could see myself doing if I didn't remove myself from that environment. Not that that's in my character, but I think when you get exposed to things over and over again, what once seemed outrageous or out of the question starts to become the norm. And I've experienced this in many aspects of my life, but exposure creates acceptance. So I really didn't want to be in that environment where eventually I thought it would be okay to post provocative pictures online for literally the whole world to see. So I didn't want to go down that road, and I decided to remove myself from that temptation altogether, because I'm not that great at resisting temptation. If you have a bunch of brownies in the kitchen, I am not the best at resisting them. So I just don't bring them into my kitchen. I think for me at the time, it was a great decision. I don't think leaving social media is for everyone, but it really did save me in terms of having to navigate that every day, especially as a young woman in my 20s. The third and final reason why I left social media was because I hated the way it made me feel. I know that I'm not a 10. I feel like we need to be real with ourselves. I know I'm not the most beautiful girl. I also know that I'm not the richest person. I'm not the most talented in many areas. I was very impressionable at the time, and not to anyone's fault but my own, but I fell into the comparison traps. I'm completely self-aware. I know that I'm nowhere near a 10. I know that I'm not the most talented girl in the room, nor anywhere near the wealthiest. So it really didn't make me feel great seeing all of these beautiful, successful, rich, wonderful lives. When I was fresh out of college, I really didn't have a lot to my name. I knew that I had a lot of work to do, and I was pretty impressionable. I wish I could say that I could see those things and just be happy for people. And I think at this point in my life, I've come a long way. I think I can see successes and not really have them tamper my own inclinations or dreams. But at the time, I really would see those things and take them to heart. And that was something that really weighed down on me. I cannot tell you a single time that I scrolled on Instagram, laying on my couch, what turns from 5 minutes into an hour. I cannot tell you a single time that I stood up from a session like that and felt better about myself, felt happier with my life. I never stood up feeling better about who I am and where I was. And for that reason, I was really starting to get tired of it. I don't want something in my life. I don't want a product in my life that makes me feel bad every time I use it, just because during the experience, I get a lot of dopamine. There are a lot of activities I do in everyday life that are unenjoyable. For example, working out. Personally, I love it, but some days you don't, and some days it's very painful, especially cardio for me. It's not my favorite, but I do it and it doesn't feel good, but afterwards I feel great because I know it was an investment in myself. Social media, complete opposite. Makes you feel good in the moment, like a lot of other indulgences that we know are not good for us. As soon as you're done, you feel guilty. You don't feel great. And this might not be the same for you, but for me, I never felt better about myself after a social media session. So I decided to get rid of it. There are so many other things I can invest my time into. I started taking golf lessons. I did martial arts. I moved halfway across the country. I traveled. I did a lot of new things for a lot of reasons, but I think one of the primary ones is that I didn't have social media as a crutch to find community or to entertain myself. I really had to put myself out there to get these experiences that I was no longer receiving proxies for online. And that's why I left. So again, I left about 3 years ago now. I decided to start my YouTube channel because, well, that's actually a whole nother video as well. So I'll make a different video on that. And if I have, I will link it below. But YouTube is new. I will be doing YouTube. I sincerely doubt that I will ever return to Instagram. Facebook, Snapchat, hit or miss. I really don't care that much about those. Instagram was really my Achilles heel, and I'm really glad I'm off of that one. So I doubt I'll ever return. But now I'm on this journey just because I've seen a lot of things that I would love to talk about and to contribute to the conversation on. And this is one of them. I think that social media is ultimately a choice. If you feel that it is a net positive in your life, then it's worth keeping. If you feel that it's a net negative, even though there are some tremendous positives, and I see that, but if it's a net negative, I think that it's good to know that there are people out there living beautiful, full lives that don't have social media, and you can do it, and you can be totally fine. People will tell you you need it, but you do not need it. You can run a successful career, a successful family. You can do everything without social media. It can be harder. It can be a lot harder, but it can be done. So if it's a net negative, just keep in mind that it is an option, that you can delete social media, and there are other people out here that are doing it. And if you love it, then keep after it. I think it's good to be aware of the pros and cons, but if it's a net positive, then honestly, good for you. You've learned how to master a tool that really is a double-edged sword. So if you can master that and keep it in your life, reap all of the benefits and mitigate the drawbacks, then I think you're winning. So with that, that was all I had for today's video. I hope this was helpful. If you've deleted any social media for a while, taken a break, come back, I'd be really curious to hear your experiences in the comments below, or if you think everybody should have social media and there's no reason to ever delete it. I would love to hear that too. With that, I hope you have a glorious day, and I will see you all again soon. Thanks so much.